Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to view the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. So, I think we were all just kind of expecting this movie to be some goofy idea that they really ran with throughout the whole movie. Come to find out, there is a lot of bands playing in this movie to kind of eat up time. We have a very simple concept for this film, which is that Star-Lord is in desperate need of Christmas because, of course, with Star-Lord not having Gamora and is to possibly still be in mourning of that loss, we have Star-Lord that is desperately needing to go on and needs some holiday more so than ever. So we are also to set up that Cosmo, the astronaut dog, you probably had seen him in the very first Guardians of the Galaxy film where he goes on and barks, and that's actually Nathan Fillion. But weirdly enough, we don't have this dog actually being played by Nathan Fillion in this movie, I guess, because weirdly enough, scheduling conflict. Because Nathan Fillion is off going on and doing The Rookie and 1,200 other different tie-ins and whatever. So I guess they couldn't have gone on and had Nathan Fillion in this film to just voice this dog. Because, of course, we have Cosmos being the astronaut dog who somehow can talk. And so we have Cosmos that is going to join in with the Guardians of the Galaxy in this film. We also end up having the Guardians get a different looking ship, and I will go on and state the name of that in here. We also have a kind of big thing within this movie that is now confirmed in this movie, where if somebody were to have already had suspicions of certain things, now we can confirm it in this movie. But then also we can possibly reconfirm this also in other films, because more than likely they might not even state that in Volume 3, who knows. But other than that, yeah, this movie was stupid but fun, very funny. I had a lot of times just having a good old laugh at this very short film. So more than likely, this is going to be available on Disney Plus. If you don't have Disney Plus, there's a number of bootleg apps that I've dare in fact rattle off and named through a number of stuff that I've gone on and stated through a number of different reviews that I've done. We could really state that Culniss Goal, Culniss Goal, is an app that I think is currently available through the Google Play Store. You can go ahead and download that and probably be able to see this for free if you don't have Disney Plus. But otherwise, I think it's about that time to grade this movie. So, this movie was okay. It was stupid and it felt like a waste, but like there is to, of course, be this MCU thing that we have to watch this movie to be like, oh, okay, so like the Guardians are setting up in nowhere as their main hub, their base of operations. We have certain things that are kind of set up here. We find out Groot is to look very vastly different than even what I'm showcasing here. We are really to go on and have this goofy song being done by aliens who are trying to understand Christmas while they're singing along, and so they end up having to need to desperately ask Star-Lord to see if any of the song is absolutely correct. So yeah, so with that said, let's get into the double 5 time territory. Really, you have to forcefully watch this movie anyways, but still, I thought this movie was worth watching because it's stupid, but like that is to like force me to just really say that it was okay, because I had fun. But again, I was like, man, if they would have actually been more productive in this film, if it would have really like gone somewhere, if we really would have like not waste like a huge chunk of time in this film, but it's only 40 minutes. So again, it feels like you're obligated to watch all Marvel things. So with that said, let's go on and let's double five this bad boy up because it's about that time. Oh, Yondu is to, of course, be technically in this holiday special in a very animated way. So Yondu is in this, but not in the way that you would possibly like assume. So with that said, let's go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. At about that time, I'm going to spoil this holiday special. So we go into the very beginning of this, and we find that we have Kraglin that is, or Kraglin that is telling this story to the Guardians with the exclusion of Star-Lord. So Kraglin goes on to mention how him and Star-Lord were trying to go on the Ravager ship to try to put together some kind of Christmas, of course, for the Terrans that just really just want Christmas. And Yondu comes in to see this very small tree and a number of presents, and Yondu, of course, is yelling at them because it's like, well, hey, why are you guys doing this? And they're like, well, yeah, it's one of our, like, holiday traditions and everything like that. And so Yondu tells him, it's like, well, hey, like, doing something like this will get you killed. And, like, I guess he doesn't threaten to eat them again. So we have Kraglin that states that it was Peter's ideal all along. And so we have Yondu that like throws everything away and tries to get rid of it because like people should not go on and see some goofy holiday tradition. So we have Kraglin going on to state that it's right around Christmas time yet again. And so like Star-Lord, it seems, is to probably like Kraglin, just desperately wants some holiday tradition now that Gamora is gone. So we have Kraglin leave, and so we have both Mantis and we have both Drax that are talking to one another. And so Mantis ends up stating to Drax that, like, well, hey, like, I think I need to go on and help Peter, like go and celebrate, like, his holiday because of my secret. And Drax is to go on and state it's like that you ate a whole bowl of Zarg nuts. And Mantis is like, no, the other secret. And Drax is like, oh, that you're Star-Lord's sister. It's like, oh, big reveal, but not exactly a massive surprise. Because when really thinking about it, Mantis was with Ego, so, like, obviously, she should have been his sister. Plus, like, the way that they are to both look like, a similar of age, like, you would think that, like, she would legitimately be Star-Lord's sister. So we have, of course, like, Drax was going on and on and on about the Zarg nuts, and Mantis is like, stop talking about the Zarg nuts. Forget about the Zarg nuts. So Mantis is to want Drax and her to figure out how they can help Peter, and so Mantis comes up with a plan that they both need to go on to go back to Earth, and they need to get Kevin Bacon. So, and we also are to have Star-Lord, and like, they've kind of set up with this whole group that they're trying to work on trying to put Nowhere back together, and and that it's going to take a lot of work. We have Nebula that's going on and saying like that this place is a dump, so on and so forth, and that they're all going to have to chip in and try to fix Nowhere. So after Star-Lord leaves is trying to get into the Christmas spirit of things somehow or another. So we have Star-Lord that bizarrely bumps into this band who had just gotten these instruments, these Earth instruments, the day before. And so we have this band member who is Benzemic Takolak and Takolak Benmitzik Taklak, whatever goofy name that this was. So we have this musician that is to ask Star-Lord. It's like, well, hey, like, we don't have a lot of Earth people here. And so this band member states that he had heard about Christmas from either Rocket, Groot, and all of these other people that actually don't know jack crap nothing about Christmas. And so the band member is hoping that Star-Lord will, of course, go on and like correct them if they're stating anything wrong about this Christmas song here. So this band goes into this Christmas song, and like it seems that at first that like the stuff seems correct, but then all of a sudden they shift into stating that that Santa is like a burglar and that he like lock picks through everyone's home and all this kind of stuff. And Star-Lord's like, no, and then he uses like a flamethrower, and like Peter's like, no, like none of that happens. You're wrong about all of that. So like that isn't even close to be true. So the band goes on and plays their little tune, and we, after like Peter like leaves in disgust because they couldn't have gotten the Christmas song right, they have the band that's saying like, yeah, he really loved that song. He really liked it. Yeah, guys. So we can play this song every year, even if it doesn't make sense, but it's going to be a big, massive song, I guess, for the Guardians of the Galaxy. And good for the old 97 for going on and being able to put this song together for this. And plus, James Gunn, I guess, had wanted to have this band be like an Easter egg for this movie. So we have Rocket going on and speaking with Cosmo the dog. And we find out that Cosmo the dog is played by Maria Bakalova. Bakalova? Butchering actresses' names here. So, yeah, I guess, like, they went on to just, like, realize that in the past, Cosmo had only barked and it was Nathan Fillion, so they can kind of have Cosmos be, like, whatever person that they wanted to be. And plus, also, like, Nathan Fillion probably was to maybe be asked about this, but he was like, to only have me be here in X number of minutes of this film doesn't make sense. And so he probably had other obligations. Funny thing, though, Kevin Bacon had actually worked with James Gunn on a Rainn Wilson movie called Super. So, like, I'm sure, like, James Gunn, to get Kevin Bacon was just a phone call away. Was just like, hey, man, like, would you mind doing this Christmas special? You can sing in it. To try to, like, sell, like, your music career. Other than you just kind of going on and just doing this movie with me and re-teaming up again. Because, man, like, I would have loved it if we could have gotten, like, almost kind of like a super reunion in this movie somehow. Because if we would have had Kevin Bacon, we would have had Nathan Fillion, and we would have had Michael Rooker, and they all had been in Super for whatever reason. But Super is a very odd superhero film. It's a very dark and weird superhero film. That, of course, is to have like Elliot Page in it. But anyways, so and even at one point I was about to like review Super at some point. It just never panned out for some reason. Maybe I got sick that day. So we have both Mantis and Drax going on to Earth. So we come to find out that the ship that both Mantis and Drax are on, I guess, is not the ship from Thor Love and Thunder, because I wasn't paying that kind of attention, but it's not that same ship. So we, of course, have both Mantis and Drax coming to Earth on a ship called Bowie. Of course, a homage to David Bowie. So it's like, what? Like, no, like, Milano? No Milano ship? Like, come on! Like, I liked Milano. But so, we have Mantis and we have Drax who land, and so they don't exactly know where to go to, of course, like, try and figure out, like, how can they find Kevin Bacon. So Drax and Mantis just start sightseeing as we have them, like, they landed on, like, the Hollywood sign, and we had both Mantis and Drax that were flying the Bowie, and they were supposed to be, like, stealth, and they weren't. And we had a number of people that are all looking at the ship and like, ah! And Mantis asked Drax, is like, well, hey, like, did you put on the cloaking device? And Drax is just like, yeah, sure I did. And then he flips the cloaking device. And then Mantis is like, you just hit the button while I was watching you do it. And Drax is like, oh, So we have Mantis and we have Drax who make their way to the TCL Chinese Theater, and so we have them go on and all of a sudden meet a number of costumed individuals. And so we have Mantis that jumps on who she thinks is Captain America, Steve Rogers, and then when she grabs onto him, she realizes that this is not Steve Rogers. We also have, like, Ant-Man as a costume character in the background, because I feel like we always have to bizarrely, there's ever an Easter egg thing, we just have to continue to have Ant-Man somehow in the background to remind people that Quantum Mania is sometime going to happen. So we all of a sudden have Drax that is to get very upset and is to want to go on and attack these robot-looking characters that are, of course, called the GoBots. Come to find out, the GoBots are actually very small, minimal, like, comic book characters, and so I guess they wanted to, like, bring them up here as this kind of goofy Easter eggy thing. And so Mantis is to try to pull away Drax from this GoBot because the GoBot had killed Drax's cousin. So we all of a sudden have Mantis, we have Drax, and they're taking pictures with everybody that comes by, and weirdly enough, like, they're throwing money at Drax for weird, goofy reasons, hoping that he would strip, but he isn't. Here's the goofy thing, though. We have Drax in a shirt, or in a, like, he's not shirtless. And so, again, like, I just don't quite understand why, like, Dave was to state that he no longer wants to do Guardians of the Galaxy because he always has to go on and be shirtless. We've seen multiple times now that he's wearing a shirt in these films. And they had to like retcon it and whatever because we of course had the other Guardians of the Galaxy movie where Drax mentions that his nipples chafe while wearing a shirt, but now he's wearing a shirt all the time. So why is exactly him not wanting to go on and do another Guardians of the Galaxy movie? Is it just like, hey man, like I'm getting a lot of work anyways, and so on and so forth. But hey, I get it. Like Dave probably just doesn't want to do these kinds of movies. He just want to kind of like he doesn't want to stay just doing one character. He just kind of wants to move on and do like a variety of different things. I get it. But also like Dave being such a massive character in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and it's like, well, hey, like where further can I really go on with this character? And that's probably just nowhere. Kind of like the location of which that they have their base of operations. So moving on. So we have both Mantis and we have both Drax going to this bar, and they're hoping that maybe they can ask anybody at this bar if they've seen Kevin Bacon. Funny enough, the guy who is to be the bartender in this movie, I'm like, oh my god, like, that guy is to be Fula Borg, and that's the guy who is the Javelin in the Suicide Squad movie. And I was like, well, of course, like, we have James Gunn who's just wanting to go on and just cast all of his friends. We even have at one point where Mantis and Drax were going and taking a picture with Gunn's family in that scenario where they were showing all those people getting pictures with Drax and Mantis. Gunn's family was all to surround Mantis and Drax and take a picture with them. So it's like, oh, that's a cool Easter egg. So Drax and Mantis get alcohol and start to get really drunk. And Mantis is bizarrely having like this smoke come out of her mouth, oddly enough. So Drax and Mantis are realizing that no one can go on and tell them where Kevin Bacon is. But then we all of a sudden have a woman named Sarah who is to be by this convenience store, and she's handing out these star maps. And so we have Mantis who takes the star map, and Sarah states, well, $40. And so Mantis just touches Sarah because she's out of money, and Mantis states, like, hey, well, you're going to give me this for free. And then Mantis states, it's like, well, yeah, give me all of your money. So anytime that, like, they're in a money bind on Earth, Mantis can just touch people and tell them to give them all their money. So we have Mantis and we have Drax who are going to all of these stars' location. They're like running off to try to find all of these celebrity homes. And then finally they get, at the end of this, they get to Kevin Bacon's house. So we have Mantis and we have Drax who are on this intercom system, and they're ding-donging Kevin. Kevin answers this with this little, like, this little portable device thing. And so Mantis and Drax are, like, stating, it's like, well, hey, are you the legendary Kevin Bacon, and can we, like, meet with you? And Drax is to kind of repeat, hey, Kevin Bacon, in a louder tone, because maybe Kevin can't hear Mantis for how she has a much smaller voice. So we have Kevin that's like, no, not today, guys. Like, so he just lets it go. And so Drax and Mantis can't get into his house, and so we have Mantis coming up with the idea of like, well, hey, how about you toss me? And like Drax grabs her and just tosses her over this gate, and then Drax jumps over the gate. I'm like, since when did Drax and Mantis like have this like huge jumping ability, and like it seems that Drax is like ridiculously strong, because I don't remember these two characters being that strong in any prior thing, but maybe that's just me. Maybe I just haven't seen them enough to see like the real strength of these characters. But but anyways, so Mantis and Drax are to walk through Kevin Bacon's huge Christmas display, and Drax sees this elf, and he's like, "Oh, this looks like a funny man. I'm gonna take this." And we have Mantis that sees this candy cane, and she grabs that. So Mantis is a state that they probably shouldn't have grabbed this stuff, but like maybe that's why it's there for them to just take it. So we now have Mantis and Drax that are ding-donging in Kevin Bacon's front door. So we have Kevin that is to like try not to let them in, but Drax comes bashing through this window, and so now Kevin, who is freaked out, calls the police, is running throughout his house. We have Mantis and Drax chasing after him, and we have at one point where like Kevin is like scaling this thing trying to run away from both Drax and Mantis, and Drax and Mantis just jump and they fall to the ground. And now we have Drax, who doesn't have his funny little man, and so Drax wants to go back, and Mantis is just like, no, like, don't waste the time, like, our goal is to get Kevin Bacon, not your little man. And so, like, which one is more important? And Drax is like, well, the funny little man. And Mantis is like, no. So we have Mantis, we have Drax, who is still chasing after Kevin. Kevin had called the police, so we finally have at one point where Kevin is to meet up with these police officers after chasing or trying to run off from Mantis and Drax. So the police officers, we realize now that both Mantis and Drax, or maybe just Drax, are bulletproof. I'm like, cool, alright. So Drax ended up just getting massively shut up by all these police officers, and he states that, like, that he's, like, very ticklish, and, like, he's getting tickled so bad that he's gonna pee. So Mantis then is to go on and touch these cops and tell them to sleep, and then he gets to Drax is to see that a cop car is coming. He flips the cop car. I'm like, since when does this strength happen? And then we have Mantis, who's trying to be nice and is to give these police officers this candy cane as a way of her, like, apologizing for this flipped car, because Mantis is a state to Drax, you can't just go on and start killing cops. And Drax is like, well, I don't know what the rules are because it's so confusing. And so we have Mantis and we have Drax that finally get to Kevin Bacon. And so Mantis touches Kevin Bacon to state that he is going to have to go on and be okay with them, like, coming with them for this Christmas surprise. So Kevin Bacon seems to be okay with going with these two people. So we have in the Bowie ship, we have all of this Christmas supplies, because we go on to have Mantis and Drax having Kevin Bacon go to this Christmas store that is probably obviously closed, to, I think it's called the Christmas Carol, or something along those lines. So they steal everything from this Christmas store and put it in the Bowie ship, and we have both Mantis and Drax in like ugly sweaters, and Mantis is like wearing these like Christmas tree things. So it's kind of goofy and kind of funny. So we have them flying off to go back to nowhere, and so all of a sudden Mantis and Drax are going on to like kind of rattle off Kevin Bacon's movies. That Kevin Bacon had at one point gone on to save a town by dancing, and we of course have Kevin Bacon that states it's like, well, that was just a role, like that's not really me, like that was Footloose, that's a whole different thing. And so we had Drax that goes on and states that like, well, but wait, like Kevin Bacon, you went on to like save this other town from Jason Voorhees, and Kevin's like, well, no, like that was a role also. That was Friday the 13th, like, and like I didn't even save anybody. If anything, I got like an arrow through the neck, and I died in that film. And so Mantis and Drax are like, huh? And so Mantis then realizes that Kevin Bacon is an actor, the worst form of scum ever, and they're starting to like hurl for how they're just disgusted. So, because this of course is very meta, and we have to laugh at the fact that Mantis and Drax, they're both actors, and they're giving crap to a actor. So we go on to now get to nowhere. Funny, a funny way of saying that. So we have Star-Lord that goes on to find out that he's going to get a present from the Guardians, and so he goes on to open this present and realizes that whoever is in the box is having trouble breathing. As it like, hey man, I'm gonna pass out soon. And so we have Star-Lord opening this box, and we have Kevin Bacon that is still under Mantis's spell, even at one point having Mantis forcefully wanting Kevin Bacon to like play up that he is some hero, and Kevin is now playing as he is some soldier from some time period, and he has this weird accent. It's like, no, not that hero. And so all of a sudden, Kevin Bacon is now pretending he's being Batman or Bruce Wayne, and they're like, no. Different brand, buddy. You're on the DC side. Come back to Marvel. So now Kevin Bacon is in this present. Star-Lord opens it up and finds Kevin Bacon in this present. And so Star-Lord is now like, oh my god, like Drax and Mantis, you just like kidnapped somebody. This is human trafficking. Like, this is wrong. And so really, like, their hearts were in the right place. But Peter is just like, well, still, you did something wrong here. And we also have Kevin realize that, like, or we have Peter realize that Kevin isn't in the right mind space. Because if anything, if he saw these people, he would freak out. So Peter is to tell Mantis to undo whatever she did to Kevin here. And so now all of a sudden we have Kevin who freaks out and starts screaming at all the people that he's seeing and all the deformed and alien-like creatures. And so immediately he bolts off. We have Nebula, and I think we have like Rocket and whoever all running off to try to get Kevin Bacon, and Peter's like, don't kill him. And we, of course, have Nebula that's chasing after him. It's kind of funny. So we have the Guardians try to do the right thing. And so Peter is telling Kraglin to get Kevin Bacon and bring him back to Earth. And so Kraglin goes on to talk to Kevin and is to tell him that, like, hey, like, because of what he learned from you, like he went on to save the world by dance, or he ended up saving the universe by dancing. Wouldn't it have been the galaxy? Because wouldn't that have made the most sense? Say like he's the Guardians of the Galaxy, he saved the galaxy by dancing, but still. So we had Kraglin that states to Kevin, it's like uh, all that, uh, like these people wanted to do for Star-Lord was to just remind him of the Christmas spirit of things. And that makes Kevin start to realize that he's like, well, you know what? Like, maybe it's wrong to leave. So Kevin all of a sudden gets a call from Kira Sedgwick, his wife, and so we have Kevin that immediately asks, and I'm like, yeah, like, where's the rationale to this? Come to find out, Kraglin is to mention that there is a number of satellites that are to have somehow been able to have phone reception here. And I was like, oh my god, they rationalized that whole bit, because I know everyone was going to go on and complain about it to the heavens. But so, Kevin's getting a call from Sedgwick, and so Kevin's like, well, yeah, I'm out with friends, and so Kira's like, well, when are you coming home? And Kevin's like, well, like, honey, I'm gonna be late, but I'll be home. So Kevin goes back and is to sing a song for everybody to get them in the Christmas mood. So we start to have a number of people that are all getting presents. We go on to have Nebula give Rocket Bucky's arm. So bizarrely, in maybe Thunderbolts, wherever we see Bucky next, he'll have lost his arm somewhere. Wouldn't that be funny? Or maybe Bucky goes on to just get an upgrade? Who knows? But we also go on to have Mantis give Drax the little man, and Drax is to hug this and love Mantis. So we have Groot that goes on to give all of the Guardians these little clay things that are to represent everything that happened in this film, these little clay scenes. And so after that, we finally have to go on and have Mantis give Peter his present. And so we have Mantis that goes on and tells Peter her secret, that her and him are both brother and sister. And Peter's like, well, like, that's like the greatest gift that I've ever been given on Christmas. And so Mantis is like, oh, great, because like Kraglin was to go on and tell us the story about how Yondu kind of ruined Christmas for you, and that's why we were trying to like help you out, because of course Yondu ruining Christmas from before. And Peter's like, well, you didn't get the whole bit of that story. So come to find out, Peter was to have Yondu's heart grow 2 times that day, and Yondu had gone on to start to look through the Christmas stuff that was in this garbage, and he realized that there was one present for him in that garbage, and so he unwrapped it, and it ended up being this one little trinket. And so I'm like, oh my god, so that started off that whole trinket collection for Yondu, and that's why he had so many of them by the time that we get to Guardians of the Galaxy, because over the years, we would just go on and have Peter be giving Yondu these little trinkets every year, or Yondu would just be going on and just finding these little goofy little trinkets, and so that's what started that all off. And I was like, oh my god, that's pretty cool. So Yondu in kind goes on and gives Star-Lord a gift also, and he ends up giving him his quad blasters. So I was like, oh, okay, so, like, that's cool. Like, so we finally know where the quad blasters come from. So we then, of course, have Kevin Bacon, who is to get done with his playing and so on and so forth, and he tells everybody like, hey, like let's meet up again in Christmas, or no, let's meet up again in Easter. So we have Kevin Bacon who leaves and hugs all the Guardians and ends up going back to his home. So yeah, so that of course is how the movie ends. So we end up going on, pushing on to the end credit scene, which of course is Rocket, Cosmo, and Groot. And Groot is just putting up this, like, he's basically being their Christmas tree, and he has his hands out, and he drops his hands, and now Rocket is stating that, like, oh no, like, Groot ruined Christmas, and now we're gonna have to go on and do another holiday special, because he ruined Christmas, and then that's the end credit scene. So with that said, I'm gonna get out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.